has reread this one. We know it's the right choice. If you are in Wauwatosa and you're interested in learning more about Malcolm's writing process, check out our author panel, Wisconsin Authors Tell All, with Malcolm and 3 other Wisconsin authors at the Wauwatosa Library on March 8th. This and a few of our family events still have some spaces open. So again, if you are in the Wauwatosa area, you're interested, go to our website for details and to register. We're grateful to our masterpiece sponsor, Beth Jaworski of Shore West Realtors, who makes the All City Read possible. And a special thanks to Carrie Murphy of Carrie Murphy Law for making today's event possible. We will be turning off everyone's cameras and microphones, and we ask that you don't turn them on. There's a lot of people on the call, so we'll probably have anywhere between 130 and 150 people potentially on, so we are going to keep people muted. In addition, you're going to see a row of names at the top, and but first of all, I'll tell you the note about message being recorded. If you have a note at the top of your screen that said this message is being recorded, if you click OK, that message will disappear. So that can be helpful for people. In addition, to hide all the extra names of the people attending, if you go up in the top corner where it says View, and then you click, see View, and then Hide Non-Video Participants, all those names will disappear and you can focus on James and Malcolm. Otherwise, your screen might fill up with names. Please use the chat function to ask questions. We should have plenty of time for audience questions. And to be mindful of time, we're only going to read the questions. If you post any comments, James and Malcolm will see them at the end. We're going to try to export them. So if you want to show some love, feel free to do that in the comments, but we're not going to read all those, just to be aware of time. And then that's all. So I want to welcome James and Malcolm and Iggy and Frida. And we really appreciate everyone being here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Terrific. I'll jump in then. Thank you, Julie, for that terrific welcome and introduction. It's wonderful to think of people all over the world tuning in to listen to us today. So welcome everybody, wherever you're joining us from. As she said, I'm guessing there are people joining us who have read What the Tide Leaves Behind, others who are maybe thinking of reading What the Tide Leaves Behind, others who have been following James, Iggy, and Frida for who knows how long, 10 years or so, up to online. And of course, people involved with Tosa's All City Read. So we've got a good bunch of people. There are the girls, Iggy and Frida are snoozing. It is a little after 7 o'clock in Palcara. Is that right, James?
It is, yep. We're just gone 7.
Wonderful.
Perfect. Yeah.
I'm just going to jump right into our questions. I've got a handful of questions here. I thought we would go through these and give James a chance to tell us a bit about himself and his life and his journey. At the end of that, as you think of questions, if you want to write them in the chat, if you're not terribly familiar with the Zoom, the bottom of the screen where you're seeing our images, if you hover your mouse over there, you'll see an icon for chat. If you click on that, you will see the chat come up as a sidebar on your screen. And feel free to enter any messages there and any questions for us. We'll get to those in a little bit. So James, I guess the very first thing to talk about is to get an update. I know a lot of people have been curious about how Iggy's doing. I know she suffered some issues pretty recently. You want to give us an update on how Iggy's doing?
Well, the very most recent update is I had her in Malcolm Woods for a 10-minute walk. And that's really, really exciting because it's the first time she was there since the 16th of January. She controlled the walk 200 yards, turned. I want to go back to the van. That's fine. And I've allowed myself and Frida to go out for a bigger walk. But miraculously, she's recovered from her stroke, pretty much 90%, I would say. There's a few little issues with her balance and maybe her vision slightly. But she was very close to departing us, to be honest. And but we had to give her a fighting chance. And there she is, snoozing. She's kind of her eyes were open. She's watching me, so she's intrigued by why I'm chatting to you.
Uh-huh.
She's stone deaf as well. Yeah. So yeah, she's good.
Good.
It's good news.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great news. I'm sure
Thank
we're
you.
all relieved and happy to hear that.
Yeah.
There were a lot of thoughts and prayers for Iggy from
There
all
were
around the world there.
absolutely. Sorry, there's hundreds and hundreds, if not a couple of thousand messages came in over the last few weeks,
Oh,
and
I'm
I'm still
sure.
working my way through. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Um, so let's kind of dive into the story of James O'Donnell a little bit. So, you tell us a little bit about your background. Are you a Donegal native?
Yeah. Falcara born and bred. We've a village here. Born in 71, and quite a nice hustle bustle village for most of my youth anyway. And then I went off to London at 15. But before that, though, sadly, our mum passed away, and that was a big change in all of our lives. I have a younger brother who was only 2.5, and then the oldest brother was 19. So 7 of us, quite a large family. And that was a big change for us. But immigration would have had a big impact on our house as well. Like, so all the older boys went away. Mary went off to America, and Catherine went off to college, and she went into the medical field. And of course, I wanted to follow, and I followed them at 15 years of age over to London for 3 or 4 months. And then I returned for a year, and I went back then independently to London. So I spent 21 years in London, kind of construction, uh, mainly kind of tunneling construction, so underground, small tunnels that you could just have to crawl through, or tunnels that could be taking a train through it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, good times there. And then one day I had a pretty serious accident in 2005, 20 years ago, this August coming. In a place, of all places, it was called the Isle of Dogs. It's a borough in East London. And unbeknownst to me, that was the worst and probably best day of my life, when I got electrocuted quite badly. And but that was the kind of starting process of me eventually coming home, which I didn't realize at the time. But yeah, so I had an enjoyable life as a kid here in Donegal. I suppose even though I went away young, Donegal was always there inside me, and you just live where you work. And that happened to be the city in London. And I remember coming home for a holiday in 2008, and I was dating a girl then, so she had a huge influence on why I came home. And I spent I think 3 weeks here one time, and I thought something clicked, and I decided, you know what, I'm never going back to London. And I never physically went back to London for 11 years. I didn't even get on a plane again. So someone done me a favor and cleared my apartment out. I just took the opportunity and stayed in Donegal. And of course, the first thing I was asking my girlfriend was, I want a dog. So she eventually gave in, and the decision was made to go for a border collie, which I hadn't actually looked into the border collies. I was looking at maybe retrievers and Labradors, those medium-sized dogs as well, similar.
Mm-hmm.
But as a kid, funnily enough, I was actually quite afraid of border collies, the sheepdogs, because back then they were working dogs on the farm. They guarded the farmer's gate. You'd cross the road. Maybe some were friendly, but I didn't read that friendliness, and so I was afraid of them. And then now I couldn't change the breed. So I'm very grateful to my former girlfriend for influencing that decision. So I found a little pup called, well, he was called Buddy eventually. He was my first border collie since I moved home from London. I got him in 2009. And he was the reason I fell in love with the collie, but also the tricolor collie, which he had a large, big, long coat, tricolor, beautifully expressive face with the eyebrows and everything else. And so then when that came to an end, that relationship, then I went out seeking, well, there's more stuff that happened in between there, but that was the starting point for me to find Iggy then as a tricolor. Yeah.
So what drove you to look for Iggy?
Well, I found myself in a bad place after the separation, and I wasn't anything to do with my girlfriend. Then it was like just myself. I found that I was in kind of a lonely place. I was functioning, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. I didn't want to return to London. So I spent about a year and a half in Donegal, and was kind of getting used to that slow way of life again in a village and rural area. And so I was functioning away, and I got fed up with life a little bit. And to be honest, I came home one night and I made a decision. Well, actually, I went to my doctor's first, and I told my doctor what was going on. So they gave me medication, and so I started taking that, hoping that it might give me a bit of a lift. But that actually had a bit of a negative impact on me then, because I didn't want to live my life taking this kind of a pill. That wasn't me. It wasn't my personality, my highs, my lows, everything in between. So I stopped taking it, but I still collected my prescription because I wanted to let the doctor think I was still on the medication. And then one night I came home and I decided on the spot just to take all the medication in one go. I wanted to get out of my life that I was in. It was just, there's non-existent. I was only getting up to exist, but nothing else was happening. So I don't think so much it was depression. It was just I didn't want to be around anymore. So halfway through the overdose, I feel like I realized then I hadn't been playing music. So I thought at least if my family find me, they'll know that I played myself out to a bit of music at least. That was the break that saved my life, I suppose, there, because I went upstairs to get my CD, and that was the opportunity where I collapsed. And I woke up the next morning, not in the best of form. My sister found me actually, and that was my decision. Then when I went to the doctor, explained it all to him, and when I came home and I'd recovered, it took me about a week to recover from that episode, and I realized then I needed a pup. To start off with a pup, not knowing anything about well, I knew I wanted to go for a border collie, so I went online searching all the best sites that I wasn't going to deal with breeders or anything dodgy, and I wanted to find a border collie born to a farm and a working background, and also that the farmers had to be really dog friendly people as well. And I spent 7 months swiping left, lovely pup, swiping left, swipe left, kept going, kept going. If something kept stopping me, most people would find a pup within 7 minutes online. Just, oh yeah, I want that one. So I kept looking and looking over a 7 month period. But about 5 months into that, sadly, my uncle passed away. My uncle, Father Sean, he'd retired home from England after 50 years there, and sadly he had cancer, and that took him really quickly. And I thought, well, gosh, maybe I could remember him by keeping his name for my pup that I eventually find. So his name was Sean Ignatius O'Donnell, and I thought Sean isn't going to work maybe as a first name for my dog, but I'll take Ignatius. And the only current Iggy then was Iggy Azalea, the pop star, and of course Iggy Pop goes without saying. So I chose the name Ignatius, and then 2 months later of swiping left, I saw this little black pup, and that caught my eye, and I thought, right, who's this here? So I opened up all the photographs on the site, and I could see the farmer and his wife. They were in the house, and they had all the pups in their arms on the sofa. Her mother and father were walking around the kitchen. So I thought, right, these look like good people. And it turns out they are the O'Reilly family based up in Kilmainham Woods, inside the Meath border, next to Cavan. So kept an eye on the page, because the bundle of pups, you couldn't pick out which one was which. They're all muddled up together. And then 2 days later, the little black pup had disappeared, and Iggy replaced it, and that was it. There's an immediate swipe right. And I got onto the phone, rang Geraldine, and we spoke for ages, and that was her betting me, and I didn't realize it. We were just doing a small talk. And she said, someone's going to come and look at the pup tomorrow night. So I was really disappointed. Long story short, when I rang again on Thursday, this person hadn't turned up, and Geraldine said, the pup is here for you to pick up. And Joseph and Siobhan, my brother and his wife, they came back from Dublin, and they picked up Iggy for me. And within days of having Iggy in my life, I could sense things turning around. Just her needing me, and I suppose it took away from my own thoughts of myself, distracted me onto her, and there she is there. Yeah, that was her just literally weeks, maybe 2 months after she came home to Kilcara, and you can see why. So and then yeah, that we just bonded. Like the global recession was going on back then as well, so there wasn't much work going on. So I was spending a lot of time with Iggy, and I had no idea where it was leading, but I knew it was going somewhere positive and exciting, and so we just bonded. I don't like using the word training. We bonded together. She understood me probably more than I understood her, and I built her up to good behavior. And after about 12 months, I took her into the Shamrock Lodge, which is mentioned in your book. And I wanted to see Maggie, the landlady, and I asked her, I said, look, Maggie, you might know that I have a pup. She turned 1, and she's fully kind of well behaved, going to bring her in for a Guinness. And she said, bring her in and let's see where that goes. And that was like 12 years ago. And Iggy's been going for quite a bit since.
She's a regular pub goer. So just go back to what was your rationale? Why did you decide you needed to get a dog? What was it you were looking for from a dog?
I suppose, well, a purpose. companionship. I didn't want to be relying on people because I only moved home as well. And I suppose the position I found myself in was I was having to rebuild the old friendships and stuff. And I just think I needed time out for myself. And just having Iggy, I suppose there's it's companionship. Yes. There she is there. And that's our local bar in Kings Court in County Cavan, Gartlands. Yeah, it's companionship. So to have company, to have a responsibility, but then also that would distract me from my own thoughts, knowing that she needed me, and I became secondary, like, and she was everything then. So it was to do with my health. I say, give me a purpose to get up in the morning, and she needed feeding, walking. She needed her company as well. So yeah, one of the
Well, a
best
border
things.
collie certainly needs a lot of exercise, so that
Yeah,
you're out doing a lot of hiking and walks.
Yeah. So the other promise I made before he even existed was that when this pup comes into my life, I wanted to get her as close to a working life as possible. So I had kind of thought about that, and that was going to be eventually the plan. And her first maiden hike, her first proper hike, was up Errigal Mountain, which is only a couple of miles away from as the crow flies. It's our iconic mountain here in Donegal. And we climbed that on her first birthday, and of course went to the Shamrock to celebrate with a pint afterwards. And yeah, she's been a huge influence. And then we're hiking for about 6 months or so. And I remember one day I had this old iPhone 4, and that's a photograph from summer solstice sunrise. So it's about 5 a.m. in the morning, June 21st, 2018. And my brother, actually Damien, who's back from London as we speak, he's just sitting off the right hand side. We climbed for about an hour in the dark to catch sunrise, but the clouds were so heavy that the sun didn't appear for sunrise. So we stayed up and we chatted for a while. And as we turned around, go back down, and it's quite a steep peak. You don't mess around. If you're going down, that's it. You're on your way down. So we went to turn down, and I went to follow my brother, who was a few yards ahead of me, and he had the new iPhone 10 at the time, and I had the old iPhone 5C, whatever. And I said, "Oh, Damien, give me your phone. Let me try a photograph." These crepuscular rays on the right-hand side of Iggy hadn't really appeared at that moment. After I went down to meet Damien, he came back up to me. So we reached out and I got his phone. I come back up to Iggy. I give Iggy one instruction from where she was standing. I said, "Iggy, come over and stand over there." And that's exactly where she stood. I didn't speak to her again. She stood there. And the direction she's looking in is down to Falcara. And you can see the coastline up in the top left by Hornhead. I lifted the phone up, and this new phone was able to, the sensors could pick up the foreground, the midground, and the foreground. My hands actually started shaking because I couldn't believe what I was seeing on the screen. And I took a few shots, and I gave the phone back to my brother Damien, and I said, I think that's one of the best photographs I've ever taken. I was so excited. And that was like June 2018. So Iggy was about 7 at the time. So a brilliant hiking companion as well, because she's great etiquette on the mountains. Like, she knew when people were coming down steep ground, she would know how to step in. But the funny thing about it is, you can see the height she's at there. It's about 750 meters up from sea level. That when we would start our hikes in daytime, she kept always pushing ahead of me, and I thought that's pretty good. Like, I'll keep going with her, because it's encouraging me to get on with the climb rather than stopping and doing too much, messing around. So then I realized she was only going so fast to meet all the hikers on top of the mountain that were having their snacks. That was her goal. Yeah, my goal was to climb, but her goal was to get up there before everyone, to meet all the other hikers, or they're having their tea. But yeah, so what I used to do then was I'd come home on, let's say on a Friday, might go up for a few Friday pints in the Shamrock Lodge in Falcara, and I would show people where we went. Yeah, we were on this mountain today. We're at Acklamore, or maybe Muckers the next day. And that was kind of cool. So that was kind of a thing we did every Friday. And then people were kind of saying, "Oh gosh, you got the eye." And I didn't know what they meant. On the composition, no idea what they meant. And it was a bit frustrating, because I was trying to explain, "No, this is where we went. You're getting too technical about this photograph. That's the mountain we went on to." So after a few months of this, I kind of read up on, I suppose, photography speak, and trying to educate myself a little bit, because I only took these photographs to document my days out with Iggy for myself. Nothing else. And then more people saw my work, and I was encouraged then to start sharing. So this was back in 2012, and I wasn't ready that time. I was enjoying what I was doing. I was going through a process with Iggy, and I found that more important than anything else. And so I eventually gave in maybe 6 months later, and I spoke with my sister-in-law, Siobhan, and she encouraged me to go onto Instagram. And I would have been very much anti-social media. I had no interest in being online like that. And then I took that website or the app because it was quite anonymous. You'd post a picture, add a few hashtags, and that was it. Nobody else knew anything about you, and that was fine. And my first photograph was of Iggy up, I think, at Acklamore. A basic shot just for out in the hills. And I thought, I'll use this one here. That was a nice day. And it got 10 or 11 likes. Some were in Ireland, some were through Europe, maybe 1 or 2 in the States. And I thought, if that's 10 or 11 people that like that one photograph, I'll post another one and another one. And then Iggy, I got photograph of the month on certain pages. And that was kind of quite nice. And for me, the enjoyment was that people were seeing Iggy, because I was so proud of her because of what she was doing for me personally. But I wanted people to see her and I suppose to let people see what relationship you can have with your dog and what it brings to you. Whether it's up in that mountain or down having a pint or something. And that went on. And then people were saying, oh, you start selling your work or printing. And that's something I stayed away from because it was just too much business in my mind. I wasn't ready for it at all. So that didn't happen for a few years. And then I waited until I was more prepared, I suppose, because it's business. Like, I didn't like the idea of turning my hobby into something that was business. I just didn't like the idea, but it took me a couple of years then to understand it could work. But in the meantime, though, the newspapers were picking up on us, or county papers, and that was kind of, I suppose, giving me a little bit of confidence as well, knowing that there are more people out there enjoying what we're doing. So maybe I should start at some stage selling because I allow people to access my work. So then fast forward to 2018, I made the decision then that in 2019 I'd make a calendar, because a calendar, you have your 12 photos for each month and your cover shots, so 13 photographs for a small amount of money. And you interact with that for a year. It's up on your wall in your office or your house or whatever it might be. And it's not a print. A print's like, much more expensive. And I like the idea that people would interact with the calendar, put all their important dates in or whatever, and it's just fun. So that's why I went along that route first. And so I launched the calendar, I think it was October 2019, and that went off pretty well. That was exciting. We all know what happened in February, March of 2020. Maybe that kind of boosted sales a little bit because we were all shut down, the whole sea thing, whatever.
Sure.
And that kind of maybe helped me a little bit because people were sticking, especially from the States and Canada and Australia. They couldn't come near Ireland, so they were looking for Ireland elsewhere. I was able to ship it to them via the calendar. And for the first 5 months, the calendar went to every continent barring Antarctica, which is pretty incredible. We 6 or 7 countries in Africa and similarly in South America bought the calendar. And then back in 2017, myself and Iggy picked up a hitchhiker way over in Connemara, Corinthia, Peru. And so we took him for a ride up for about an hour and a half to get to his location. He wanted to go on to Clare Island Lighthouse, so we just spent time with him and hung out until the ferry came in. We drove him there. Ferry picked him up, and that was the end of Corinthia until he got back in touch in July or so of 2020. And I just asked him, where are you and what are you up to? And he goes, oh, I'm an engineer in Antarctica. And I said, give me your address quickly. And that qualified Iggy to go into every single continent for the calendar. Yeah.
She's well traveled. The calendar has been to every continent.
Yes, and we've got photographs of Corinthia with the calendar out in the ice in Antarctica. And we actually got a bottle of silky Irish whiskey, which are based out in Ardra. We actually managed to arrange a shipment of a bottle to go out to Corinthia and his colleagues to warm up a little bit in Antarctica.
Very good. Let me go back to your just talking about your photography. As you said, people at the Shamrock mentioned you had a good eye for it. Are you fully self-trained?
Yes. So I left school at 15, which is your high school, is it? We have our middle school here, and I left at 15, which I had still 2 more years left. I wouldn't change that. Look, that's what happened back in the day. So I suppose I still had a bit of an interest in the arts slightly, but not very much. And if I went on holidays, I might take a few photographs just to document that. But no training whatsoever in photography. And I don't follow photographers for that reason either. I have friends of the photographers I follow surely, but I don't fact follow photographers to understand the process, because I think that'll take away from my own originality, because it's a very personal story. Even being called a photographer is a funny one, because it's more of a storytelling with my Iggy as well, and the photographs document what I'm doing. Um, so I think, yeah, so I think Iggy's been the biggest. This was taken by Dora. Um, she's a professional photographer based down in, I think, Wicklow. We met briefly up in Donegal, and her timing was fantastic. We arranged to come into the Shamrock for a beer, and I said, "Would you mind catching a photograph with myself?" And he, I was just turning the pint for the Guinness logo to face her camera, and I noticed Iggy yawning on the right hand side. I saw her yawning, so I just kind of yawned back, immediately knowing that hopefully she'll take the shot, Dora, and this is what she captured. So we call it raising the roof. So, and that was the one-off shot. That
Yeah, it's a great shot.
As a brilliant shot. Yeah, that's going to be well, moving forward a little bit as well. I'm hoping. I started writing my memoir. Let's say I just started it, but then obviously Christmas came in, the holidays. I became sick then in the first week of January, and then he became ill. So it is started, but it's going to be pushed back a little bit. But yeah, the photography process was down to myself and also down to Iggy's. I don't know, her own kind of personality and energy as well. She kind of made a lot of photographs for me. I'd be walking along, and whatever she was doing, I would say, "Hold that there, Iggy. Stay where you are."
So was there a lot of training involved with Iggy, with commands and orders to get her to move a certain way or pose a certain way?
Well, I suppose for the first year, when we were out on our walks, I actually spoke to her quite a bit as a pup. I spoke to her like as if it was a child or a person. Like I spoke every time I was doing something. And also I would just like wave my arms and hands and point as I spoke. So let's say go over here a little bit, and or come to me or go back, and she just picked it up really quickly. And it wasn't like a deliberate training section. It was just something to her gradually getting to know, and she was very understanding with that. But she's been incredible. Because seemingly my signature work has turned out to be puddles, and I love puddle photography or water reflection photography. And there's times where I could send her off into a puddle of water into the middle of it, and she would stand so still for the ripples all to finish, level off, and I would get the shot. But sometimes if I needed her to move and I couldn't move, I would just say, go this way, and she'd just go inch, 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 or she would turn, and perfectly. Yeah, it's like she just understood me. And
I'll ask you. I just saw. I think it's Jenny Griffin sent us a question about when did you start taking the reflection photos? Was there a particular one that was the first that set you off, or what gave you the idea?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jenny. Thanks. I'm not really sure, because it's kind of it all melds and melts in together. You know, the first couple of years. I think I just like maybe pushing the norms a little bit. Yeah, that's a fantastic. Well, just the way Frida posed so still. That's in Malcolm McDowell Woods that was taken last year. That's incredible. So for me personally, I need the water to be dead still. So it's quite kind of a technical shot to get Frida and Iggy into position and get their ears up and make them look more engaged. And then obviously I need the right puddle, and even the surface below, if it's tarmac or clay, it depends. That kind of impact on the actual quality of the reflection. And also I need the wind to be on my side and stay calm. And that there would be one of the better shots I've ever taken with Frida. I think that one's called Irish Eyes, maybe.
Oh, it's beautiful. Her eyes are lovely in that shot.
Yeah. But yeah, getting back to Jenny's question, I would have to maybe scan back some night on my Instagram to go way back. But I still think it was just something trying to push the norms a little bit. But also in more recent years, I think maybe that there's something about the reflection itself. It's like, let's say, afterlife, or it's coming from somewhere else. And, you know, maybe when Nikki does go, that you can turn up the photograph, and that's her coming through from the reflection somehow. You know, she's so there, but not there. Yeah. No idea. And I'm quite happy that I don't really know as well sometimes. You know, you just let it happen.
Yeah. And there's a question that kind of alludes to something I was going to ask you. You mentioned what Iggy did for you. What did Iggy do for you? How did she change your life?
But she kind of saved my life. Well, to be pretty honest, though, yeah. As I say, yeah, she relied on me completely, and that allowed me then to go, right, okay, I have a relationship here. I have to work with this now and see it through. Um, it's yeah, it's yeah, I committed myself to it because I knew I had
Mm-hmm.
to do something for myself, but also for my family and my friends. I didn't want to have to go through another episode of possibly, doing what I did prior. So that's why I committed myself to that there. But it's the enjoyment I was getting from that I wanted to share eventually as well. That's the other reason.
Mm-hmm.
And also, but you're becoming popular. I remember when I left at 15 back in '87 to go to London for those few months. There was a big recession on. I was struggling at the time. A lot of people were leaving. And when I came home in 2008, we had the global recession as well. And I thought, well, with Iggy becoming more popular, maybe I can use this now as well and have a different angle and maybe try and encourage people to come to our little village. We get hit really badly with all the young folk and some older folk having to return maybe to old jobs they had in Britain or America, God knows where. And yeah, and a lot of businesses closed. And yeah, it's a big change. I mean, I kept myself busy with it all, but I thought, okay, if my photographs are getting this attention and Iggy's fan base is increasing quite fast, then why not use it now to promote Falcara and Donegal? And we went with that as well for quite a while. And we would promote any small business that we had a kind of a rapport with, and if we get on with them, we would share them and help anybody around. So yeah, and people have started coming to Falcara, Donegal, off the back of having seen Iggy's photographs from the way back in. So
Well,
2013 is when we started.
you've had people that have actually moved
Yes.
to the area after following you online, which is incredible.
Sure. Yeah, people have bought couple, Lisa and Tucker, they bought a house up by next Banded Lighthouse, one of the most iconic lighthouses in the world. They bought the last residence there on the left. Another couple have bought a house in the Melton area. They had hoped to move to Falcara, but didn't find something that was suitable enough for their size or whatever reason. They moved to the east of Donegal. Saoirse and Seamus, they're living here in Falcara, and other people have come to see with the possibilities. Our friend Malice Kelly, who runs DNG kind of estate agency, he's been received a few calls from Iggy fans looking to see what's available in the area, and that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another thing we should just mention too, going back a few years to the accident Iggy suffered.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was another way that kind of cemented. Did it? I guess that may have helped teach you how many people around the world were following and caring for Iggy.
Yeah, many people would include yourself. You'd be top of the list that time because I remember it was a real disaster of what happened. We went to myself and my friend Brenda Hewitt. We went over to Maharoti Beach, the local beach there, just after a storm. So we wanted to go over and see the rough waves and the Wild Atlantic Way, as it's called now. And we climbed off dunes, went along the beach, and we realized then the tide was so high, so we went to turn back. So Brenda and her little dog Ziggy were ahead of us, and myself and Iggy were just catching up. And there happened to be a log just lying along the edge of the water. And Iggy was walking past that, and this big wave came in, like the seventh wave, the bigger cycle came in, and I saw it coming, so I just hopped to the side, but Iggy didn't move quick enough, and this wave actually washed. It was like a mast of an old ship or something, but it rolled that up onto her. So as my back is to her, I'm facing the dunes, like, and she may have followed me. I've turned around, and I took the wave to roll the log back off her, and this wailing out of her, the howls from her were, yeah, I would want to hear them again, but I had to run into the water to get her. She couldn't move. Her front paws were moving, but her back wasn't, and I didn't know whether her pelvis, hip, spine, whatever it was. I had to get her out of the water. And it was just like that in an instant. Your mind, your eye didn't want to see what was happening, didn't want to believe it. But I got her out of the water, and with the tide being so high up, we couldn't go along the beach, so I had to climb over the dunes. And I got Brenda to run ahead and ask for help. And we got a jeep eventually, came in an hour later after climbing over the dunes, and we got Iggy out. And we managed to get her to the vet the next day with a very badly torn hip. And that was very tough because I remember, gosh, we had to stay in Brenda's house that night. I stayed in the sofa because it was the nearest location. I didn't even want to take her another 2 miles from my house. We had to stop, get her on the floor. The vets couldn't take her that night. So in the morning, we got her into the van or into Brenda's car, drove there, and about a mile from the vet, I just lost it. I couldn't even breathe, like, because it just hit me, I suppose. And we got her in, and she had about a week staying there, a major operation. And she came back home, and it took her 8 weeks at home, where I would take her out to the toilet, and the garden, back in again for 8 weeks constantly, nothing else. That's all she could do. But within a few days, I got this link sent to me on Instagram from a site called GoFundMe, and it had your name across the top of it, Malcolm McDowell Woods, and you'd set up this fund, unbeknownst to me, and you would demand that I shared it, and within, I think, 24 hours, at the asking price, I think it was $800, which would have been about €650 at the time, was raised within 24 hours, and that covered all of her costs, and then a little bit more for medication following. So thank you, Malcolm, for that. So that was a huge outpouring of love for Iggy, and it was a shock for all of us. Like that kind of brought it home.
But it was amazing how many people jumped in to help right away.
Yeah,
I mean, at that point, you already had so many followers throughout the world, so it was
incredible,
very heartening to see that response.
Absolutely, yeah. An eye opener, because I kind of take one day at a time, and I don't kind of really look into those things, but that kind of brought it home. And that kind of, I think, it helped me loads, not just financially, but just helped me with the support that was coming in. Same now as well for the last 4 or 5 weeks. There's thousands of messages on board, particularly on Facebook and Instagram. I've still about 2,000 messages to hit like on yet. Yeah.
I've seen a question just asking about how I met you, and I should just mention that I've lived in the States my adult life, but my childhood was in Derry, Londonderry in Northern Ireland, just across the border from County Donegal. So I have always looked for things online to see stories or pictures of Donegal, which I think is the most beautiful place on earth. And I was also love border collies and dogs. So I'm sure I was on Instagram looking for content that had hashtag Donegal or hashtag border collie. And maybe about a decade ago, came across James' account and became a follower. So I've been following his journey in photography and the two girls ever since. But a few other things happened since then in your journey. You ended up becoming good friends with a really famous photographer. You want to talk about the American connections then that happened?
Yeah, that was incredible. It was a lady called, hope she's watching. Hi, Fiona. Fiona Malloy Leopard. Another Derry woman. I call her the original Derry girl. Fiona's an amazing person. We've met plenty of times now in the States and over here. Fiona came on board, maybe she'll correct me, but let's say about 2017, I think, and 2018. And she used to always leave these lovely reviews on my photos. I love reading them because I don't really analyze my own work, but the way she was describing it was kind of helping me understand what I was doing as well, a little bit. So that's why I look forward to her writings. And so then I think it was around August of 2019, just after I made the announcement that I'll be launching the calendar within a few months, all for 2020. On this particular day, so this is me setting out in my business for the first time ever with I have no background in photography, dogs, business, social media, anything associated with what I do. And so I went out one day looking for people to take adverts out of the calendar, like for monthly adverts. So I always have to seek out 12 businesses, and then I'll normally have a title sponsor then, who would have their name through the calendar. And so I was busy all day and pushing myself because I was kind of introverted then when it came to business. I struggled with that, but I had to simply do it. And I remember getting a burger and fries, chips, and I came home into the living room at 6 o'clock in the evening. Myself and Nikki were just exhausted. And I said to myself, eat that dinner, switch your phone off, and put your feet up. I took the second bite out of my burger, and next thing, Messenger rings, my Messenger phone, and I look at it, and it's Fiona Malloy Leopard. And I'm thinking, gosh, that's that lady that leaves all these comments. How come she's ringing? So I picked up the phone, and Fiona didn't stop talking for about 45 minutes. And it was all about, James, we want you to come to America. We want this, that, and the other. And she obviously had planned all of this. So what she had done was that she lives in Key West, and her boss then was a guy called Samuel Holmes. Absolutely beautiful, amazing, lovely gentleman. He sadly passed away 3 years ago now, I think this March. He was a former picture historian for Magnum Photography. And he's the guy that you'd go to get any photos released by that Magnum group. So he would have probably helped make other people famous by releasing their work as well. So Fiona, fair play, she presented my photographs to him, and he was full of compliments. And he said, look, we need to get this guy over. Let's get the ball rolling there. And soon after that, they went up to New York to meet his best pal, who's a guy called Elliot Irwith. And Elliot, some of his most famous works would be Marilyn Monroe. And he worked with Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, Marlene Dietrich, world leaders. But his own work was quite quirky and humorful. He would do a lot of street photography. There we are. And he's a dog lover. He's got 5 books out on dogs, along with all his own personal stuff and the more professional work. And then, so they went up to meet him for his, it was Samuel's 95th birthday. If I'm right with that, I think. And they stayed with Elliot for an afternoon, and Fiona said there's a lull in the conversation between Samuel and Elliot. She just took a moment. I went over and sat beside Elliot and showed him my Facebook page on her phone, and he took the phone up. We started scrolling. There we are. And he asked, was this guy printing his work? And Fiona went on to tell him more about me, and then he said, look, we should get him over. So that was in August 2019. And it was incredible. Like, this 45-minute phone call was so overwhelming. Like, almost was like, my gosh, where's all this coming from? And I just come in from speaking to local small businesses looking for support. And this phone call came in. And so then I went to work for a solid 6 months. I raised the level of stay and work to get a collection together. Still with no background and not sure I was picking the right photographs. And at fair play, as one person said to me, you got to be careful because you might have an emotional connection with some of your work that maybe other people mightn't see that. They might see something different. So I did ask around with different opinions, got a collection of about 50 pieces together. And the plan was to go to fly into New York on the 16th to 15th of March and get down to New York, to Miami, be driven to Key West and exhibit twice in Key West, once in Isla Morada, Florida Keys. Then on the 31st of March, fly to New York, and a perfect day, April Fool's Day, the 1st of April, I was going to go into the ICP, the International Center of Photography, to have my work critiqued by the executive director there, a guy called Malcolm McDowell, who's at the top of the photography world. And I just thought, I'll go with this, like, why not? What have we got to lose? And so 2 days before we're supposed to fly, there's an elephant in the room. That was COVID. We knew for about a week and a half before that, 2 weeks, we're discussing about how people who'll turn up and people can't turn up. And then I think in the last week, we knew that it wasn't going to work. And so then we decided we'd have to call this off. So instead of me feeling down about it, or feeling sorry for myself, I kept that same intensity going, and I just went back into work and not let it get to me. And even though we were in lockdown here, I still went out with Iggy and I got my photograph to keep me going. So that was kind of therapeutical as well. Again, I was using Iggy again almost, or our relationship, like I needed back then, that I just kept going while the world stopped. And I got some of the best work as well because of that. I kept just tipping away. And then I eventually got to meet Elliot in December of 2021. The following year, in the summertime, I got word, or autumn time, that you should prepare yourself, that Elliot will be able to meet you. And I went over in December of 2021, and it was an incredible trip. I met Elliot. I spent about an hour almost in his apartment. My friend,
quite a journey from starting to take photos with your cell phone of the Donegal scenery to ending up in renowned, famous photographer Elliot Irwitz's home, sitting on the couch with him a couple of years later. It's an amazing journey.
Huge, like, and I think what helped me too was that being self-taught, I wasn't putting any pressure on myself. I had to go to college and spend thousands of this, that, on camera gear and education. I just did what I did, and if they liked it, that's fair enough. And same with Mark Lavelle at the ICP. I was quite happy to go in. If he said, "Well, 70% of your works was average," I like this amount. That's fine. I would have taken anything, but just getting to meet these people, and I haven't met Elliot. That gave me such an inner strength to really just keep going on and believe in myself and do what I was doing.
Did he give you any advice?
Well, he did mention about getting another dog as well. So you never have too many dogs, but I think his advice was just to carry on as you are, like be yourself, stick with your own style. And people, if they're familiar with his style, he was quite funny and quirky with his dog photography as well and street photography. But yeah, it was his idea to sit on the sofa. We're about to get a few shots before we left, and he decided, let's go over here. So even in our last few minutes before we left, he was still thinking about me to get the right shot. And yeah, and amazingly, then last year, just gone in August, I got an invite. He sadly passed away in, I think it was November of 2023. And last autumn, I got an invite to go to his first memorial event in New York. And I didn't really believe what I was seeing on this email, but I had to get it kind of confirmed. And I spoke to his daughter Ellen, and she said yes, they'd like me to come over. And I managed to have a +1. And it was young Niamh Hoban who came with me, and we met with Fiona. Fiona came up from Key West, and we met with Charles Bennett Grubb, another guy from the Hamptons, and we had a lovely evening. But the people there were from Life magazine, National Geographic, a few celebs, and there's myself sitting down the back, taking it all in. And I used that week then, kind of in memory of Elliot and what he did for me by then asking a local business on 3rd Avenue, they own Molly's on 3rd Avenue, and also they own Malone's, which is a bar further up. If I could have my first ever exhibition, and they allowed me space in Malone's, which is 1 block away from Grand Central Station. And that was a huge thing to do as well, all within the 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful to those. Yeah.
So, have you any more photography shows or exhibits planned?
Well, I actually turned down an invite to go to the Florida Keys. I was there last year, and I got another invite to go down for April, but the funding isn't there for me, disappointingly. But I did say to keep me in mind for next year, for 2026. But I think my priorities will be with the Milwaukee Irish Fest, which comes up in August.
Now, you've been there a couple of years, right?
Yes, I've been three years in a row now, and it's been fantastic. Even last year, I got on to your local television station. I got chosen to go on for an interview and with Brendan Jones, and that was really cool. And I really enjoy Milwaukee because I suppose with me getting physically to the States, and people can come to the festival to meet me in person, to get to hear me tell them about a story and chat about the photography is kind of cool. And Milwaukee is such a well-run festival with Debbie and Greg and all the volunteers. That kind of makes it all worthwhile. And I stayed with yourself this year, or last year, just August. And also I want to give a thanks to Michelle Maxwell, who put me up as well for a few days. And she always helps me at the booth, setting up and bringing it down. Yeah.
She's a huge help getting your booth set up. Yeah, every year.
But also with Milwaukee, it's fantastic and it's real because my friend Brenda Hewitt, she's an amazing hand weaver. She's only a couple of booths down below me. And then you have Donald Sweeney from Kilcar, so a weaver and knitwear, and there's about 4 or 5 Donegal booths there, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's quite a good Donegal contingent there at the festival every year. If you're not from the Milwaukee area or aren't familiar with it, Milwaukee Irish Fest calls itself the largest Irish music festival in the world, and it's usually in the middle of August on Milwaukee's lakefront. We have a terrific festival grounds. You'll see terrific artists, tradespeople, craftspeople, musicians, hundreds and hundreds of musical acts over the course of a 4-day weekend. So always a great time.
And you volunteer there, but you had your own personal appearance in the author's tent last year. If you want to tell us how that went for you, because you were there.
Oh, that was great. Yes, I was invited to the literary corner. They have a cultural area in the festival, and they choose 3 or 4 authors every year to come in and exhibit and sell their books. So it was terrific. I met a lot of I met a lot of James fans who
Iggy fans.
heard about me from James and wandered over from his tent. It was a terrific weekend. Yeah,
And that was kind of fun because sometimes people would come to my booth, which is only about 50 yards away, but they would present your book. And James, we want your autograph on this or signature on this too. Like, so that was cool. Yeah.
Well, we're getting some questions about the book, and I, the book is inspired. If you haven't read it, it's James and Iggy were the kind of inspirational characters for the book, and it kind of goes off. It's not by any means James' life story. It's a piece of fiction. But someone has asked James if any of the characters in the book remind you of anybody in Falkara. And I'll answer an earlier question first, because someone said, is the book set in Falkara? Is Donegal supposed to be Falkara? No. Donegal is a completely fictional place, not based on any one particular place, but it's kind of an amalgamation of a number of small villages and boroughs along the coast in Donegal there. Falkara is probably a little bigger than Donegal's. But Falkara is, if you haven't been there, is a terrific, beautiful place, and the strand nearby is gorgeous. So,
Well,
do any of the characters in the book remind you of anyone in Falkara?
Well, there is one thing in particular, and you mentioned about the beauty of the place with the back strand. Well, along the back strand, we have this channel that leads into Ballyness Bay. And Ballyness Bay, for, gosh, 7 or 8 years now, is under serious threat of being taken over by shellfish farming. So I really appreciate what you've done in your book about in Killfish Bay, with the fish farming coming in and bringing that threat of losing a bay that has been there for all of us. I do understand if people need to use the ocean and the seas to make their living, but maybe not such on a mass scale. And we're quite fearful of that happening. Our government seemingly is handing out licenses to put shellfish farmers into our pristine, beautiful bay. So I appreciate you bringing that up into your book. I'm sure that's a link there as well. But yeah, you mentioned the shamrock, so that's really cool, because it's the first place I took Iggy in at a year old, and it's now quite a popular dog-friendly bar throughout. The front bar, the lounge, everything, the beer garden, and also there's a very successful music session there on a Sunday, which I might go to next Sunday. And yeah, but yeah, reading your book now is there's quite a few emotional moments for me. I could see the link completely when the character took a few opportunities to take photographs and the reflection, and yeah, that was like, gosh. And it's a real honor. Like, I mean, it's quite still hard to believe that my story, that, as we said, we didn't know where it was going to go at the beginning. For now, someone to have written their first novel inspired by story. And the other thing as well, it's funny that even though Iggy is in, I know Frida is on board now as well for the last 3 years, but with Iggy being central to all my work, very rarely would I've taken a shot without Iggy, unless I was up in an airplane or a 6-story building when I couldn't get her. Very rare. But I think a little bit that I am Iggy as well in the photographs. You see Iggy, you're seeing me as well in there, because yeah, there's something about that. And somebody mentioned really to me a couple of years ago that when I was telling them the story, a lady called Sarah Humble, and I just gave her a brief kind of rundown of my story, and she says, well, Iggy was probably your invisibility cloak. And immediately, I hadn't really used that term or heard of it, but I immediately got what she said. And I agreed with her, but deep down, I felt that I had to take a bit of the credit for myself. I think that's part of so important. So I'll give 70% of that to Iggy for being my invisibility cloak, and allow me then to. So what Iggy was doing for me, actually, now looking back, is that she was taking the pressure off me having to engage with people all the time. That when I walked around, people then looked at my feet to see where Iggy was. So Iggy was first. And even if some people remembered, hi James, how are you too? You know, but that allowed me then to stand back and see this interaction, and I was able to come back around again. And it took me a few years to feel like, even doing this interview tonight, probably up to 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I might have avoided it if I could. So that's a big thing for me. Being kind of introverted to maybe a thing called ambivert, where you can bring yourself forward to do stuff like this, and then you can step back a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you carry a reminder of Iggy on your arm, don't you?
Yes, two actually. This was for my birthday. Or 2 years ago now. 2 years ago this May coming. there's always an idea. So I've got two tattoos, or tattoos dedicated to females in my two influential females in my life. My mum passed away at 41, so when I was at my 40th, heading towards my 41st, I thought, you know what, I'll get a tattoo. And a girlfriend back in England, back in the late 90s, actually offered me was going to gift me a tattoo for my birthday. And I said, yes, I'd love a tattoo, but I don't know what I want. So I declined. I wouldn't just rush into a tattoo for no reason or for the fun of it. So 15 years later, after that offer, I actually went ahead, and myself and my friend Mickey McFadden, we designed a bull, a stomping bull, because I was born my mum gave birth to me in May, so I'm Taurus. And this is what I have. I have a piece here from top of my shoulder down here. And it's kind of hidden, it's above my t-shirt level. And so still quite private, but it's my first ever piece, and it's quite large. So then for my birthday 2 years ago now, coming this May, I decided, well, I had this idea from, I think it was about 2017, myself and Nicky were touring in North Mayo, down Patrick Head in Bristol. It's along the coast there. It's a stunning sea stack. And Iggy happened to walk across this kind of slightly damp grass. The steps were like lovely, smooth, grey concrete, and she stepped ahead of me. Her paw prints were absolutely perfect on the steps. And I had my hiking boots on, and I kind of walked deliberately alongside those paw prints. I thought, gosh, if I ever have another tattoo, that's the inspiration there. Those prints on the concrete. And then I never got around to getting them done. So then one day I bumped into a girl that's chatting. She happened to be a tattoo artist based in Donegal town. And I made the appointment there then. So I got Donna McCauley. She done molds for Iggy back in the day, and she done more recent ones for Iggy and Frida. So I said, if I take a photograph of these molds, these will so let's see, where's the camera?
There we go.
Yeah, that's actual Iggy's right paw, as if she's sitting in front of me, and this is her left paw. And it's like if I put my hands out and she put her paws there, and this way I've directed them towards me. But the main thing here is that I don't have my phone, but so let's say when Iggy sadly does have to depart, and it has to leave us, that when I'm working with my phone, that she'll always be ever present. So when I'm looking at the screen working,
yeah,
she's going to be there. Yeah. I suppose I've done that in preparation. Yeah, and I actually wanted them on here,
mm-hmm.
but I knew that wouldn't be allowed because of doing skin works and stuff. But I wanted her paw prints facing the way hers would be. So yeah, painful.
Well,
but
just a note to people, I have put in the chat where you can find James' work, his website, jamesandiggy.com. I've placed the site where you can follow my writing as well. And we've had someone ask if they can see Iggy. Are you able to, can you move? I know Iggy and Frida were sleeping in the room there. So, and please, if you have questions for us, write them in the chat.
Yeah, on the risk of moving the phone, so remember, where are we? So there we are.
There's Frida. Hi. Frida's wondering what's going on.
So I need to see where I'm going, right?
Hi, Iggy.
Is the camera okay there? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, that's great. Yeah. And you say Iggy's deaf, but she reacted to you walking over to her quickly.
Yeah, she's absolutely stone deaf. Where are we? Sorry. Yeah. Oh, see that there?
Uh-huh.
See how she doesn't hear me, so she won't. Well, she does normally hand me her paw. She offers the paw. She's a bit tired. She was actually snoozing. Hey, but she's good. Yeah.
He's a world famous dog.
Right.
Lovely.
This was risky. Over there.
All right. So we had some other questions. Let's see. What else we have? We got a new one coming in? Not yet.
So I get a lot of artwork sent to me. One of the greatest compliments, I think, for me personally as a photographer is when I get painters, artists asking me to paint my photos, particularly with Iggy in them, and oils or watercolor and a mixture of all sorts. And I think it's fantastic, and I love every time someone asks, and I never deny them that. I'll always ask to see the finished work, but in some cases I get given the actual original works.
Mm-hmm.
Noel Donoghue gave me a fantastic piece. Noel is based down in Waterford. He's an amazing painting there of Iggy, Noel Donoghue. But this gentleman, Terence Gallagher, um, let's see, is it, no, he painted this piece of Mairead Ní Moiney, which she'd be one of her most famous fiddle players. And she's come along with us a few times to get do some photo sessions, twice by her home and once up in Glenveigh National Park. And this now there's a very, very large piece hanging over at Donegal Airport by Carrickfinn. And these are things that make me very proud of. Iggy's given me access to these A-listers as well. We've met so many people, all walks of life. And that's down to Iggy. And every time around, we never figure. Yeah, there's Mairead herself now. So we set this up a couple of years ago, and Mairead invited us over. It was actually International Women's Day 4 years ago, I think, and I saw she put up a post. So I just took the opportunity, sent her a private message, saying, "Look, would you mind maybe meeting up with myself and Iggy? We'd love to get some photographs." So this is just right behind her home, and we'd got the seat, and I never let on, but Iggy will howl to the fiddle. So when Ray's playing away, the next thing I could see Iggy's chin, she started raising her chin, and off she went. And I've actually got a bit of a video on that as well, like from back then. But Ray's been fantastic, and we're hoping to work with her again in the near future. So Iggy has been on RTE or Irish television, RTE1 on the Today Show, and she's been on Teaching Care. She's been in lots of newspaper articles, and I actually got an opportunity to write for our Donegal Democrat. I wrote 8 articles over an 8-week period we done the tour of Britain. So I took Iggy and Frida over to Scotland, and it turned in from a week away to actually almost 7 weeks. And the newspaper allowed me to document each week, which was fantastic, like, and a lovely experience. So that's the other side of things. I've never imagined myself writing for a newspaper, public articles, and also with my own photography when I post online. I think it's so important to add minimal has to be location. So you have anybody puts up a lovely photograph of the landscape or anywhere, you've got to add location. It's so frustrating. Well, where is that? So you have to add location, location, location. And then what I tend to do is I'll give a reason why we're there. So let the viewer know why we've got that position, why they're viewing that place. And also then I'd like to add in sometimes a bit of humor, and also just a little bit of a story or a micro story, which I think I was chatting to you about before. It'll be little micro stories with a line or maybe a paragraph. And that then helps the viewer and their imagination to reach a bit further and just seeing it up and scrolling really quickly, like we all scroll, but it can hold them there for 2 minutes. And yeah.
Well, it also, I mean, you've been a terrific ambassador for County Donegal, for the northwest of Ireland there, and for the businesses. You've highlighted a lot of the businesses in your photos, particularly specifically dog-friendly restaurants, bars, and hotels.
Absolutely. We were very proud a couple of years there when Iggy was an ambassador for a 4-star hotel in Sligo town called the Sligo Southern Hotel. That was really cool. I'd advise anybody if they're traveling to the northwest to look into the Sligo Southern Hotel. And yeah, in any little cafe, but what's the dog friendliness is inside. It's not in the patio outside or in the garden. We try and encourage that the dog friendliness is allowing your pets inside. So living in England for all those years, and especially having travelled, we've written quite a bit over the last 3 years. We see firsthand how successful it can work. And also in this part of Donegal as well, the potential for hiking and countryside walking is huge. And in the northern half of England, and particularly Scotland and the Highlands, it's based around hikers and walkers. And all these people bring their dogs, 90% do. So businesses aren't going to turn them away. How many of us have owned dogs and we have them in their homes? And I do understand, yes, maybe it's not for everyone, but it's like almost the fear of not seeing something work, first of all. So it's coming along slowly, but in Britain, they're way ahead, I think, and it works really successful. And it's lovely. Myself and Iggy dined in the Yorkshire dog-friendly hotel of the year because 2 local bars, one was closed, one was busy, and had to eat. And we went in. We got almost like it looked like a top table, but I was observing the room, and every second table had a dog, and all the other tables that didn't were chatting to the tables with the dog, and it really works well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we're hoping to get to France. This is the big dream I've had for Iggy for years. I've always dreamt about getting around to Paris, and gosh, so early last year I realised then I kind of give up on it because of funding and also with Iggy's health and just work and commitments elsewhere, particularly getting to Milwaukee. And then about October of last year, our friend Donna Harkin, who's an amazing musician, Donna Harkin, and she teaches about 10, 11, 12 different instruments, all related to Irish traditional music. So she lives in southern, she's an amazing writer, poet, and very witty lady. So she's going to come home for 2 weeks to see some or get some festivals here, and she put out an offer for anyone to dog sit. So we've taken that, and the plan is now that Iggy is recovering, she's here tonight with us, and also hopefully she'll be here with me to go to France for 2 weeks and nearing the end of April, and to get her into Europe as well like that is so cool. And yeah, it's so. I wouldn't be doing 80% even of the stuff I've done with Iggy if I didn't have her.
Mm-hmm.
I really wouldn't have got those opportunities.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, she's become a terrific ambassador as well.
Hmm.
Patricia asks about Iggy and Frida. Do they seem to prefer people over dogs?
Iggy would be like a human, drawn to humans more than anything. That was one of my observations with her. She'd be very much never look for the attention from dogs. And funny, she wouldn't be a rollover dog. She wouldn't be one of these who would lie on her back and go, yeah, tickle me now, Lord. She was kind of a bit more independent, a bit more, she's a bit of classiness about her as well. Be like, and that just suited everything about her, how she stood, her coat, everything about her, her personality. Frida is definitely much another dog. Like she's de facto all dogs running around looking for games all the time. She's like the high end of the border collie energy levels. Iggy would be a rarer, kind of calmer, easygoing, but good fun, energetic. Whereas Frida is the one that would jump over a 6 foot fence and no problem to her. But she's very controlled though. We have sheep with her lambs, or we have cows and calves every so often, and she'll sit on the fence and just watch them and never any move to go. No, she's very well behaved and brilliant to work with on a one-to-one. As soon as she knows we're going to work, she starts twerking, her tail's wagging and the body's twerking, and it's almost like I've got her nearly calm her down to reset her. Okay, you know we're going to work, right? Calm down. Let's get this photograph. Yeah. So they're very good, and they had we struggled for the first maybe 12 months, which is fair enough because she was wired. Well, she looked wired compared to Iggy because I think Iggy made Frida look bad because of how calm she was. But that's all good now, and you may have seen photographs with Frida joining Iggy in her bed, and no problem there. Two of them cozied up. Yeah. And this is my first time having 2 dogs as well, ever. So,
yeah. How long ago did you get Frida now?
Before I went to meet Elliot over New York, I go down to the Cunningham family in Mallinbeg, and they own the Away to Me farm, and they actually take tours in, do the dog trials during the year. And we spoke with them, and we went down to see the litter. So there was 3 dogs, 3 bitches, and we wanted to see the females. And went down the one visit early December. We came back then a week or 2 later, and I kind of realized the closer it came to the crunch. I thought about sticking with the tricolors, but also long coat. I'm a long coat fan because it's for photography. You got the texture, the waviness. It has more character, I think, to the dog and more beauty. So the 3 little pups were showing that there could be long coats, but when it came to the crunch, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna leave Iggy's a standalone tricolor because of who she is. So I switched off 2 of the little female because they had a little brown around their face with the black and white, and this Frida here had it was totally black and white, and a classic collie, and made a great decision. And she's been fantastic now. So yeah, and it's been an unusual like an overlap where Iggy now literally takes the back seat. She'll either be left at home, and I have to bring Frida out for her 1 hour or whatever it is. And it's kind of helping me to deal with what's ahead as well. So there's days I'm in the van or out walking street, and I have to say like, this is it. This is the future. Iggy might be around, so that's kind of helping in a way as well.
Sure. And your photos, just to get back to your photos for a minute, they're still all taken on a cell phone, right?
Yeah, I was given hand-me-down iPhone 4 back in the day, and that's sort of kind of thought, okay, I'll use this to start off. And they were good enough because I was only sharing to an online app, so you didn't need great quality, I suppose. But for me, also, it doesn't matter about the quality of your camera. It's kind of the composition or the story you might capture in a photograph. And then, very luckily, a guy, Gavin, Gavin McKay, he gave me a heads up about a competition with Huawei. And he said, there's a competition going on. You should enter that photograph you took where you showed it earlier, he up in Errigal at summer solstice sunrise with the crepuscular rays and her looking out over the landscape. And I entered that, won the landscape genre or group competition. And I received the P20 Pro, and it was a huge step up. It was an incredible step up to the quality of the camera, the size of it, and everything else. And that really boosted me and probably helped me then to be noticed more. So also, I think with the improvement in the images, and that's where it caught the eye of the folk over in the States as well. So I have to thank Gavin for that. So then I got brave enough, and I pushed Huawei then for a sponsorship, and they gave me the P30 Pro sponsored, and the following year they gave me the P40 Pro, and I've gone back to Samsung. But yeah, but the reason being with that, I think, is I actually have to admit I'm a bit of a technophobe. Whether it's laziness or sometimes technology will just really give me a headache. It's just not my thing. But what the idea I like to push is that we all have a cell phone, mobile phone, and that every phone I'm sure has a camera, and that should allow everyone just go out there, take a few shots of something. Doesn't matter what it is, and it may then lead you into a little hobby. That's going to distract your mind as well, take you out of wherever you might be, and that can lead to something else. So with me and Iggy, my photography led from walks to hiking, to days away, to weekends away, and further, from holidays in Scotland and Wales and throughout England to go hiking and stuff. You just never know, but it gives you a hobby, and I think it's so important to have a hobby, if not multiple hobbies.
And it's said that the best camera is the one you have with you. So
I think
you always have your phone with you. Do you have any advice? I know Tulsa All City Read has been running a photo contest as well in conjunction with the book this year. Do you have any advice for photographers, particularly taking pictures of their pets?
Right. Gosh, I suppose with Iggy, he was very lucky. She's staring right at me now. She's like sat up and looking straight across at me. Must be your tea time, but I'm gonna have to wait. See, for me, being self-taught is a funny one. I think you've got to believe in what you're doing. You have to enjoy it. Find that style of photography that you enjoy yourself. Doesn't matter with anyone else. Just stick with that. And with me, I'm kind of eclectic. It's like it could be Iggy, or it could be landscapes, or it could be architecture. It depends. I'm kind of open to shooting mostly wherever, as long as Iggy and Frida are central to it. But yeah, find your style and do follow some photographers. Gosh, it's funny as a self-taught, it's hard to teach as well. But what I would like to think is maybe follow my page and then find what you like through that. And you can ask me questions via the page as well. Like the composition is a big thing, and see, for me, it probably makes it easier where having Iggy and Frida front and center, mostly anyway. Sometimes they are off the distance, but if they're front and center, then the background is kind of secondary. But I think composition is quite important. How to have leading lines and how you're using your angles and light. But this will all come to you because I've taken thousands of photographs. I've practiced and practiced and practiced. And if I took 100 photographs today and I only found one in that bunch that I wanted to publish, I still enjoyed the process of taking the 99 other photographs. It's all about enjoying it. And if you're working with your pet, then even better again, because you're engaging with your pet. And that's really fun, because you're thinking, why on earth do you want me to sit in the puddle? What's going on here? But yeah, and building a bond, there's so much more to it. It's about training, obedience, building the bond. And as I tell people with Frida, because she's a bit more hyper and energetic, I call it the 5%. With her is where 95% of the day she gets to do as much as she wants and has the freedom of the home, and we get out and do so much. But 5% is where I need to have total control over, and I really have to boss her. I have to be firm with her just to get her to do things. And but she's coming good now with that, but she's learning. But yeah, she's been more challenging. But yeah, just stick with what you love and find your style, and just use your phone. Don't feel overwhelmed that you have to buy a big camera, a tripod, and lenses, and this, that, and the other. Just use your phone. Have fun.
That's enough. Very good.
Yeah. Hmm.
We're getting, I think, if you can see the chat, I don't know if you can see it, James. We're getting a
It comes
few
up a little bit and flash.
we're getting a few pictures of other pups from around the world, I think.
Right.
How did Frida get her name?
Yeah, I suppose like Ignatius is his first name, and she's the girl. I feel like when you have a pup that's going to be with you for 10, 12, 14, even 20 years, and I think you have to respect their intelligence and give them a good that suits them, and obviously maybe has some meaning to it for yourself, and then maybe give them nicknames afterwards. That's just my belief. So Frida had a few funny ideas. Just messing around my head, running through ideas. And then I remember I had Iggy in a beautiful dog-friendly restaurant in Derry called the Warehouse Number One beside the Guildhall. It's an old fine building, and on the left-hand side, all this decked out and artwork and leather seats and really comfortable for the humans. Then on the right-hand side of the hallway, it's exactly the same with the dogs. They had their leather sofas and everything. And I'd bring Iggy in there, and she'd sit up alongside me. And the cushions were they had Frida Kahlo. They had her image on them. I was familiar with Frida Kahlo, the Mexican artist. Didn't know too much about her, but obviously I knew who she was. And then people started commenting that he's in good company. So I let that go. And then I'll say again, when things come to the crunch, think a bit deeper about stuff really quickly. And then I thought, well, you know what? I'll read up on Frida. So Frida, she was born with polio. She had a bad accident. She was in hospital struggling with pain. And then I think her dad brought in her artwork, her pencils and boards and stuff to draw, and she's doing these self-portraits, and then she's an interest in life, but maybe her mental health could have been an issue in her death and stuff. And I thought, gosh, I'll revive her name. So then I went with Frida Kahlo for this little girl here. And so the thing is that Iggy's named after a priest. My uncle, who's an amazing gentleman. He was a priest, yeah, to me at times, but mostly an uncle. And then, so Iggy's the conformist, and then Frida, named after Frida Kahlo, the non-conformist. So,
Nonconformist is Frida, definitely. Yeah.
and I think
Wonderful.
that's what I loved about Frida Kahlo being a non-conformist. I do like that idea.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. Well, we're seeing where some of the people are checking in from. We've got
that's really interesting.
Gulf of Mexico, Scotland, Derry, Belgium,
Fantastic.
Scotland. So people all over the place.
Hi, Karen. Yeah.
Someone's next door to you there in Falcara.
Really? Was it Sarah? I think Sarah's name might have popped up.
Sarah, yep.
Sarah's been fantastic, actually. You know what? It's great to mention Sarah. Sarah was the influence behind me setting up my photography page on Facebook. There you go. Because I set up, against my wishes, I set up a profile on Facebook. And, having been away from Falcara and Ireland for years, I found it quite difficult to open up on Facebook like that. But I think in 2017 is when I started my photography page with the support and encouragement from Sarah. So very grateful to Sarah. And would you believe it now, on that Facebook page, we've gone over 40,000 followers with Iggy and Frida, and that's been quite amazing. Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. And Sarah looks after Iggy as well. When I was in Milwaukee last year, Sarah came down and helped alongside my brother, sister, to look after Iggy, take turns walking Frida. Yeah.
And I'll just mention that again. I'm putting it in the chat now. jamesandniggy.com. That's your website. So in addition to calendars, you sell prints now as well, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I got the prints up and running as well. So they've been going okay. It's a mixture, I enjoy the calendar. I suppose that's one side I'm lacking on, is maybe getting myself set up more professionally in that business side of things. With a proper gallery maybe at some stage, or even a proper website. But yeah, the jamesandniggy.com is where you can access the calendars in particular, and we still have it actually up here. But I've got to show that in. This is Keenahan Cottage. Keenahan Cottage is based on just the edge of Keenahan Loch outside Leek in County Fermanagh. So Lisa came on board with an advert, and this is our 6th calendar, so 2020 right up to 2025. And we've got a mixture of there's let's see, there's Kerry, there's Mayo, Derry, Fermanagh, Wicklow. So we kind of go around the country a little bit now, adding in more places. And also, I would like to mention that coincidentally, the fact we're having this interview in the month of February, and that this is the photograph that I'd chosen way back last year for the month of February, and it's actually titled "What the Tide Leaves Behind," which is dedicated to your book. And this is free to hear, like as if the tide has just washed her up. And then, kind of oddly enough, that this is so close to the image that where Iggy got hurt, almost 8 years to the day, 8 years to the 28th of February, which is just a few days away.
Yeah.
And it's a similar log, very weirdly, that Iggy was walking past, and this huge wave came in and washed it up. But anyway, on a lighter note, this is Frida having great fun. And yeah, we have the Silk. So these are the adverts I sell then. So Silky Restaurant, which is based down in Leitrim. And yeah, I'd like to show you just really quickly. This was our very first calendar.
2020.
2020. And I remember I was in Flakara and I saw it was about 8:30 in the morning and one of the shops wasn't opened. And I looked over Donegal and I could see the sun hitting it on the left-hand side, which is kind of, I normally go up there when the sun's around the far side in the evening. So I just raced up there that morning, 20 minutes, or raced up to Minacreva to get the photograph. Iggy jumped into the ditch. There she is. Got the photograph. And within that half an hour, that was my decision made. This is the cover photograph for 2020. This is over at Inch Island, up by Inishowen. Football Special, our famous soft drink, or pop.
I've taken a picture of that same boat.
All right, cool. See, I love also the yellow door, so that's a favorite color. This is the famous shot there with Iggy up on top of it. Erigo. So Iggy appeared on the first three calendars, and then of course when Frida turned up, she demanded front page as well, and that's 2023.
So.
That's the 2024.
Yep.
And then 2025. I'd just like to say really quickly, this calendar actually went to Antarctica, and Corinth in Peru received this. And I'm not sure when the last time an Irish language booked it went down to Antarctica. Erin Boher, Iggy Uggs Frida, so on the road with Iggy and Frida, which went all the way down to Antarctica. I mean, every continent. Yeah.
Very good. Well, do we have any other questions? Someone asked if Iggy understands French.
No.
That was fictional. That's the book.
Yeah, that's the book.
And Carrie is asking if past year calendars are available for purchase.
There's a few around. If there's a year in particular, if she PMs me, so my photography page on Facebook is James O'Donnell Photography, and my Instagram account is James_O'Donnell_photography, and you can send or email even is just jamesodonnell71@hotmail.com, and we have calendars. I think I'm very limited with 2020 is a very rare one that could be auctioned off in a few years to come. But I'm not sure if I have any more copies of this one, but we'll see. But yeah, there are past calendars, and people are collecting them as well. Some folks have collected every one from the start. That's kind of cool.
I have posted his Instagram account to the chat. So, wonderful. Well, I think we're coming up against the near the end of our time here. Catherine has asked if you can tell us more about your plans in France.
So the plans are. So sadly, I went to Cork last week, 2 weeks ago, for a friend of mine, Brian, who passed away. And that's the other thing to do with Iggy as well. Brian was doing this genealogy research, and he was looking for his great great grandfather called James O'Donnell. He found me instead. My name popped up at the top of the list, and then we got in touch. Long story short, sadly, he passed away, and we were in Cork 2 weeks ago, and I'm planning then. We had planned to go down there to meet him end of April, so we brought the week forward, and I'm going to go back to Cork, sail from there, hopefully, to Roscoff, which means that we're on the water for not as long, because I think that's the shortest sailing from Ireland to France, Cork to Roscoff, and then we go into Brittany, And depending on the day of sailing, I think I might have an extra day before I need to get to Donna's house. That'll allow me to tour into Britain for a little, or Brittany for a little bit, and see some places there. And then we head over to South Normandy, which is about an hour and a half directly down from, well, an hour south of Bayeux, and about an hour in from Brittany. So quite central, rural countryside. And I do have plans of getting Iggy into Paris if it works out. So what I might do is reach out to one of Iggy's fans in the Paris region and maybe put them onto my insurance or have them in with me as a passenger. Because I'm take my van, which we call Gallivant. Gallivant will be coming over with us. So it'll be a challenge. I've driven in Paris or France before and in Europe, but in a left-hand drive, like your side of the car. So for me, it'll be different because I'll be on the pavement boardwalk side. But I want to go with it. I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, get into Paris and then come back, and then maybe on the way home we'll work our way up maybe through the Normandy beaches, maybe into Le Havre, and maybe go into England. That's a possibility. If we're on the road, I might just do that because I've got family in London that may do that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I'm on Duolingo, learning the basics. Just to get past if you're in the supermarket or if a cop pulls you over or if just out in the I think it's polite to have a little bit.
And then we've one final question from Patricia. Will you be returning to Milwaukee?
It depends this year because of Iggy's health's one thing, but I'm sure we could arrange to have her looked after. But for me, it's funding. That's the most important part. Funding. I've actually had since 2019 when Fiona started inviting me across to Key West and Islamorada. I've had about 12 invites to go to the States to exhibit my work between the Florida Keys, Milwaukee, New York, Mystic, and Connecticut. And I have other invites as well elsewhere throughout the States. But for me, this funding is the issue. I would hope to maybe I'll investigate that. And also if maybe I could seek out some sponsorship, possibly. That's the idea because we've used Gallivant. So the Shamrock Lodge in Falcara, our local bar, they're the main title sponsor now. So their name is on my van, runs throughout the calendar. And we brought their name to Milwaukee with their t-shirts and that. So I'll be doing something similar, hopefully with other businesses. I've sent out some ideas to them and we're waiting for a return. Our numbers are increasing month by month. So the girls have over 60,000 followers through Instagram and Facebook. And incredibly, just recently, for a 28-day period, our photographs were viewed on Facebook alone up to 1 million times over 28 days. That's pretty incredible.
1 million. That's amazing.
1 million, yeah. It is amazing, and it's a lot of work. I mean, for me, I'll say the hardest part would be it's not a complaint because I love the whole idea. There's a huge, amazing community out there, but the behind the scenes work can take up a lot of time. But yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed is you are terrific at corresponding with your followers and responding to messages as much as possible.
Yeah, there's about 9 different ways of communicating with me. So either on my photographs or PMs, DMs, WhatsApps, Messenger, email. And it's hard sometimes to keep track of it. But I think because of the large community we have is down to communication. If somebody, no matter where they are in the world, if they're 2 miles across the road from here or in Antarctica or wherever, everyone deserves to be acknowledged. So it's like with a quick thank you or a heart is something.
Yeah. Terrific.
The other thing too, Malcolm, is that one of the very powerful things with Iggy is down through the years we've had people who have lost a husband, lost a wife, lost a son, daughter, or child, and also all the people who have lost their pets. They've actually told me privately. Some people have spoken publicly and they're okay with this. We've met them in person, different groups in the Shamrock. They've come all the way from the States to tell me their personal stories. Mike and Debbie, they lost their son. They lost their son a few years back, and they're devastated. So they up sticks. They come out of California, moved to the North Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina, just for a new life. And she said that she was looking over through old photographs from her visit to Donegal the year before, back in 2012, and she'd lost her dog all within a few months as well, prior to her son. It was very devastating for herself and Mike, and she decided to look through all her old photographs and then to try and find out Irish dogs as well to help with her own therapy, her own recovery. And she found Iggy very soon. But she found Iggy very soon after her son's death, and we were only online a few months. And both herself and Mike, her husband, said to me in person up in the Shamrock last year that Iggy had kind of helped bring them through the process. And they're amazing people. And Sheila Lennon, same thing. She lost her 15-year-old dog and her husband within a couple of months. That was her home, all gone. And she said that Iggy was what helped her. And now she comes to Falcara for her holidays to be in the community. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
All,
That all
there's so much of those stories.
Speaks to the power of community, the power of photography, the power of
the dog.
A dog.
Yeah.
That's why we're all here. Iggy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, well, I think we've used up our time here. I don't see any more questions waiting for us. So I think we're ready to wrap up and say goodbye. It's, what is it, 8:30 in the evening in Falcara?
It is. Yeah.
You have one last walk before the girls go to sleep?
I'll get Frida back down to Ballyconnell. We try and keep our steps up. We try and get a target of 10,000 as a wee goal we have, and also for Frida's needs, especially with this weather. It's very stormy, so maybe the weather mightn't allow me, but I will try and get her down. But I'm sure again on the way home I might sneak in for a pint. My brother is over from London, so I promised him I'd go for a beer, and it'd be nice to celebrate just tonight even.
Very good. There you go. There's one waiting for you.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
All right. Well, on behalf of us, thank you all for tuning in and joining us. This was a terrific visit. It was great to see so many people participate and see so many names pop up on the screen. James, thank you very much for your time today and spending it with us. And thank you for all of the years of sharing Iggy and Frida with us and your journey. It's wonderful.
Plenty more years to come.
Many more years to come. I
could see myself right up to my last days, and I'm mobile. I'll be still looking to shoot. And it's funny, I was chatting to someone recently there. We were chatting about just the fun of if there's a parallel universe that Iggy would be taking photographs with me. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. This will be recorded. Tosa All City Read will be posting a link to the recording. And again, there are links to James' Instagram and his website earlier in the chat. Scroll through that if you need to find it. And
thanks for all the messages here. Thanks for all the folk that are leaving their messages there now as well. Appreciate it. And thanks very much for having me on here. It's an honor, really. And thanks to the Tosa All City Read, your book club. It's really, really cool for you. And and
no,
you have a sequel. You have a sequel as well. You've already started your sequel.
I've started working on a sequel. Yes, a follow-up to What the Tide Leaves Behind.
Proves the success of that. Yeah. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all.